Hi, I'm Dave Boyt with the Potter Shop Hollow Tree Farm and Portable Sawmill, and I have just installed the latest upgrade for the mill, which is Norwood's IntelliSet Computerized Setworks. Now what this does is to use an onboard computer to calculate exactly where that next cut needs to be, and it will send your setworks to exactly the right position to make that cut. And I'm counting on this to save me a lot of time and also maybe some errors in calculations where I wind up with lumber that's not quite what I thought it would be. So I'm going to take this through all of its different programming modes and demonstrate how you would use each one for different types of cutting depending on what you're looking for or what your customer wants. So let's get started. Even with the control box turned off, it still draws a little bit of current. So Norwood recommends that you unplug it from the battery when you're not using it. So we'll plug her back in. And when you turn it on, you listen for the diagnostic beeps. Perfect. That tells us that it's up and running and ready to go. Okay, we are ready to turn on our computer, which is also the wireless remote. It's a good idea to start a cutting session with a quick check of the calibration. Just make sure that the digital readout matches the actual height of the blade. So let's start out with the simplest type of cut, which would be just a straight slab cut. Now, the customer wanted this eastern red cedar log slabbed out. So what I'm going to do is just simply slab it down about halfway, flip it over, and then slab the other half. The customer wants 5/4 slabs, so I'll edit the down to cut mode from 1 inch to 1 1/4. So click and hold down, and hold down the key until the selection goes to 1 1/4. Tell OK, and click on the 1 1/4, and you can see that the selection says 1 1/4. So I'm going to use manual mode and move it up to where I think my slabbing cut should be. Try it about there, and that is 12 5/8. And I really don't care what this number is at this point, because I'm going to now switch it over to the down cut mode. And click on the 1 1/4, and you can see that the selection says 1 1/4. So we're ready to make sawdust. And I am going to be going down in regular increments from that point to give me 5/4 slabs. So I'm ready to raise the blade a little and bring it back. Now at this point, I've made my initial cut. It remembered where I started that cut, nudged down on the joystick, and there's where we need to be for our next cut. So it went down from the first cut by 1 3/8 of an inch, which is 1 1/4 plus the socket. And we'll go again. back, nudge it down. We're good to go again. Okay, so now we're ready to finish off our cutting, and what I'm going to do is to use the manual mode to bring that saw blade down to about where I think it needs to be for that next slabbing cut. That ought to about get it. Alright, now we have a flat side down. We can switch to the standard IntelliSet mode. And we've got 1¼ inch selected, and jog it down. And that's where the slabbing cut needs to be. And what that does is to measure from the top of the cross bunk to the bottom of the blade, and it calculates it in such a way that that first slabbing cut is made so that you can make equal thicknesses of boards all the way down, and the last one on the deck is the same thickness as all the others. So again, this takes a lot of the calculations out of it and lets you focus more on the sawing end of things. Okay, so that's telling me 4 inches. So I'll take its word for it. We'll find out here just how well that's going to work. Go down to my next increment. Now I'm ready to go. Well, let's see how we did here. 1¼ inch. Inch and a quarter, and maybe just a little shy of 1¼ inch, but the reason for that is just a matter that there was stress in that log and it bowed up a little bit on that last cut, which made it come out thin right where the blade went in. But a little further into the cut, you'll still have your full 1¼ inch thickness. So the IntelliSet system worked exactly the way it was supposed to, and I didn't have to do any calculations. I love it. Well, here's my next piece, and this is actually the bottom log of the first piece that I cut using the standard IntelliSet setting. The customer wants mostly 2 1/4 inch thick slabs, but I'll get a couple of 1 1/4 inch slabs from the top and bottom. And in this case, we want both 1 1/4 and 2 1/4 inch thick boards. So we'll go to the downcut mode. 1 1/4 is programmed in, and I'm going to edit the next increment and change that to 2 1/4. There we go. Okay. So we'll start out in the manual mode. Alright, so we'll drop it down to our slabbing cut. And 13 3/4 looks like it's going to be pretty close, so we'll start there. Down cut, 1 1/4 selected. And that's where I'll make my first cut. Bring it back, nudge it down, and there's the cut to get our first 1 1/4 thick board. And now we want to go to 2 1/4 inch thick boards. So we'll select that and drop it down. Nudge it down to the next cut. There's some nice cedar. So, now that I've got the flat side down, I can use the IntelliSet mode, and I want the bottom 2 boards to be 2 1/4 inches thick, and the board above that to be 1 1/4 inch thick. Alright, so we'll go to the custom IntelliSet mode, and we'll have to create a pattern, call it A, and the bottom board is set to 1 inch. I want the bottom board, 2 boards to be 2 1/4 inches. So I will edit that and change that from 1 inch to 2 1/4. Okay, and I want the next one to be 2 1/4 as well. So I can save a few steps by just clicking the repeat button. And now board number 2 off the bottom is 2 1/4. Go up to the next one, and I want that one to be 1 1/4. So I'll edit that and drop that down to 1 1/4. And if there are any boards above that, I want them to also be 1 1/4. So I'll just hit the repeat button just to get that, and should be set to go. Here's our pattern A. I'll just nudge it down until I get to where I want it to be for that first cut. So we're ready to go. Lift it up, bring it back. So just nudge it down and it automatically goes to 4 5/8 and make that cut. And there's our 1 1/4 thick top board. Back up, bring it back, nudge it down, and now the display tells us that we are ready to cut the last board, and look at that, right at 2 1/4 where I want it to be. And that's perfect. We'll make our cut there. It'll cut the cant right in half and give us our 2 1/4 inch thick 5-edge slabs. Wow, look at that. Look at that. That is some serious cedar. That'd be a good name for a business. Serious cedar. When the IntelliSet is moving the carriage up or down, it will continue until it reaches the correct height programmed into it. Be careful not to lower the blade onto the top of the log. If the carriage is making a movement that you don't want, hit the power switch. That stops it and brings the engine down to an idle. You should practice this a few times when there's no log on the mill so that you can do it quickly when you need to. Anytime you move the carriage under the manual mode, to start with the speed control all the way down. Hold the feed lever in the desired direction and then gradually increase the speed. This is especially helpful in easing the blade into the log when you're starting a cut. At the end of the cut, again, use the speed control to slow down the motion gradually. I recommend this for both the feed and the carriage height adjustment. After a while, it becomes habit. Just be aware that when the IntelliSet is in control of moving the carriage height, it does so at maximum speed, no matter where the speed control is set. While you're learning to use the IntelliSet system, throttle down after each cut before you return the carriage. When something goes awry, you'll be less likely to break something if the blade isn't running. As you gain confidence, you'll probably keep the mill at full throttle between cuts, but you should still throttle back anytime you're off bearing or otherwise working around the mill. Keep extra fuses in the control box. The 30 amp fuse is particularly easy to blow if the lift is activated when the carriage is at the maximum height. Remember to turn off the remote display and charge it up between milling sessions. If the batteries on the IntelliSet wireless remote do go down, you can tether it to the control unit right here and keep using it. And it doesn't charge up the IntelliSet remote while you're using it. So when you're done, you want to take it off of the tether and put it on a regular charger overnight so it'll be ready next time you want to use it. In a pinch, you can use the wireless pendant to control the mill, but you'll need the sliding height gauge. Well, I hope that this has given you an idea of some of the basic features of Norwood's IntelliCut system. And I hope you can see, even from this, how much work it saves you making calculations and being able to focus instead on running the sawmill and making the cuts. In the next video, we'll delve into some of the more advanced features of the IntelliCut system, how to program it to get exactly the dimensions of the boards you want on some more complicated cutting patterns. So, till then, I'm Dave Boyt, Potter Shop, Hollow Tree Farm, Portable Sawmill, and keep making sawdust.